Here.
Okay, and how was it to go back to play Drago after more than 30 years?
It was a bit strange. It's a bit weird because I first didn't want to do it because I thought it'd be kind of sad to try to. I didn't want to hurt that image because it's like an iconic character that people, you know, especially people who work out and such, they really look up to this guy. But the script was really good, and I get a chance to show another side of the same man 35 years later, and more of a, you know, kind of a damaged, struggling side. Use some of my own life that I've been through in the last 35 years in this character, so it's kind of full circle. So it turned out to be a really great experience for me, and a real dramatic challenge, but also a great experience to look back at my own career, the way he looks back at, you know, his career as a fighter. There's some parallels that I think are kind of unique, because usually you don't revisit a character 35 years later. Somebody else would play a James Bond. It's, you know, you get a new James Bond. Except, of course, Stallone has done it, so I guess I'm in good company there.
Did you get to fight in the movie or not?
Most of the fighting is done by my son in the picture, but there are a few surprises, you know. Yeah.
The second question is, who's a better fighter, Sylvester Stallone or Stephen Amell from Arrow?
Oh shit. Well, it's different, you know.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't sparred with Stephen Amell. I mean, I've sparred with Stallone a little bit, and he was very good when I was with him back in '85. You know, I was a bit impressed because I was a karate champion, but he was very good. So I think they're both good, but I suppose Stallone maybe has a bit of an edge. I have to say that. Yeah. So they're fired.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
How do you see from when you started and now to the new action heroes? How do you see the development of the action star on the big screen? Pretty much the same, or?
Well, it's kind of hard to generalize about those things. You know, film goes through different cycles. I came into it when a lot of athletes became actors and movie stars, like Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, myself, Seagal. A lot of guys who were proficient, were good at, you know, martial arts or boxing or weightlifting. And that's changed. There are a few people like that, like The Rock, and I guess Jason Statham, you could put him in there. There are a few, you know, but because now there's such a huge investment in these movies that, you know, the studio relies more on doubles and CGI and things like that. And so I think that there's still a lot of pressure on the actor, but I think that's a change that I've noticed. You know, you're watching your own movie in the theater and you haven't seen half of the stuff. You're like, what the hell, am I in this scene? Oh, nice, you know. Where in the old days, you were there for everything, so you knew exactly. But like in the Expendables, suddenly, you know, they do a little computer version of you, they scan you, and then suddenly you're like coming down from a 100-meter tower, like on the wire, and it's like, wow, I don't think I did that. That was my computer guy who did it. So that's the big difference.
And now, for instance, on the Expendables, to get back on the big screen with such iconic actors.
Yeah.
How was it like to feel the love from the crowd?
It was tremendous, you know. I think the greatest thing was to work with Stallone again, which I didn't really think I ever would. And now, of course, after Creed 2, we've done 5 pictures together. Maybe a 6th if there's an Expendables 4, you know. So that was terrific. I mean, the original concept were a bunch of guys who nobody cared about, you know, kind of washed up, and I guess there was some truth in that.
Art imitating life.
Yes, exactly. I felt kind of washed up to some degree. I didn't feel finished, but I felt a bit lost. And I think some of the other guys did too. And Stallone was very smart. He brought that back. And I think that's the concept that he'll probably fall back into if we do another one.
Even with Creed.
Even with Creed, yeah, you're right. Creed is the same. And I think those are always the greatest roles, you know, when you can, somehow people like that. Because if you've been around for many years, like I guess I have, when people, it's nice if the character and the person can merge a little bit, you know. Well, a typical example would be like the wrestler with Mickey Rourke, you know, where it was sort of almost, like you said, you're almost watching the real person, but it isn't, it's the character, but it becomes very touching, you know what I mean?
It's all about the character.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your experience in Arrow, and keeping in mind that even before you appeared on the show, people already said that Constantine was maybe the only guy who measured up to Oliver.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, I had a great time in Arrow. I hadn't really done television, like dramatic TV before. And, you know, they designed this character. This is before Creed 2. Another Russian guy. But this guy was a little more like the Godfather, you know, he was a little more like, you know, he had guys do the fighting for him. And he was a very fun, interesting character, so I had a lot of fun with that guy. You know, I had fun with him. But there's a little bit of a Russian kind of Marlon Brando, you know. It's a weird kind of mix. But so I did. There was a bit of that, and some other kind of little bit of Drago, and yeah. And Steve Amell, I had a great time working with him. He's a nice guy, you know. And yeah, it was a top show, really. Yes.
Hi, Dolph. My question is about knowing the differences between two movies you made. The first one was The Punisher in the 80s, and now Aquaman. Both are both superhero movies, and I want to know two things about it. First, how did you get the job on the Punisher, and what differences are in superhero movies in the 80s and today? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, on the Punisher, I think they were planning to make that picture, and they sent me a bunch of comics of the comic books, you know,
yes,
the magazines, actually, comic book magazines, to my house in LA, and I don't think I read many of them. I was just like distracted. I was just like a young guy, you know. I'd done 2 or 3 movies, and I was like going out every night and enjoying myself. And there was some guy with a skull on, you know, like on his shirt. But the script was interesting, actually. The original script was written by Robert Kamen, who wrote Taken, for instance, The Karate Kid, written a lot of great movies. And it was different because you saw how he became the Punisher. His family was killed and all that. That was cut out of the final picture. But you know, one big difference would be in Aquaman. I told you I got that role. They came to me, and James Wan had wanted me for the role, and the casting agent liked me, but had to audition. So I did like a little a monologue from another film, playing sort of a kind of troubled, sort of a bit of a Shakespearean type of a monologue. It was, I think it was from, it wasn't from The Princess Bride, it was from something like that. But the big difference, you know, is to be honest with you, in The Punisher, I had a couple of fight scenes with these 2 Japanese guys from Tokyo. They brought them in, Kyokushin's karate style I do. They flew 2 of these guys in from Tokyo when they were in their 20s. And they were both really hard guys, you know. And they didn't know about movies much. They thought it was like a real fight, like, oh, we have to fight Dolph Lundgren now in Australia. You know, I was in Sydney. And they were like looking at me when I showed up, like, oh, okay, you know, here he comes, like, it's going to be tough, you know. And then we had these fights where it was really, really hard. Like, these guys, I mean, for instance, one of them had to kick through a bow, it's a staff, like a spear. And they had a breakaway spear, but somehow it got lost. No, he says, just give me the real one. And he just kicked right through it, you know. And the other guy, he had to die at the end of the fight scene. I stick him with a spear, and he was crying, you know. He was in his dressing room, because they had to tell his family in Japan that he lost the fight against Dolph. You know? So there is a difference. In Aquaman, it's all stunt guys, everything is perfectly planned, it's all wires, and every scene, you know, and there's not a big chance you get hurt. But in the 80s, it was a bit rough. Like I had to really watch out with these guys, like, you know, not to get hurt. And I had these big boots on. That's the Punisher, these big motorcycle boots that weighed about, you know, 10 pounds each leg. So for me to block a kick or like throw a kick was quite difficult, you know. So, and I had these tight leather pants and everything. It was tough in a different way.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you have played some action roles, and you needed to prepare yourself in the last few months before the shooting. My question is, how was your diet? Because I'm also a nutritionist, and I'm curious about that.
Okay. Okay, well that's changed a bit over the years, because when I was younger, I would starve myself a lot. When I had to take my shirt off for a role, I would eat almost nothing, you know, only protein and no carbs, and do like dehydration, like don't drink water, only caffeine, only Diet Coke and coffee, and sometimes take diuretics to get rid of the water to get very cut while I was lifting weights. And it's not very healthy, really. I mean, I did that for on and off for 20 years. And I had some injuries from it, because not just to have to look good, but then I have to fight as well. So, you know, you're throwing kicks and you're dry, your joints are very dry, it's not good. So now I do a different type of regime where I eat more food now. I eat carbs and protein, 4 meals a day usually, 3 or 4, preferably 4 in a shake after I train. And I try to eat very clean, don't snack, and just eat clean and train a little harder. And you get the same result, really. But you know, you feel much better. The other one is terrible. But when you're 26 years old, it doesn't matter, you know. You can be on a diet and train and go out drinking tequila or something every night. But now, at my age, you gotta be careful. That's where it is, yeah.
Anything special before you filmed the Expendables or Creed, for example?
Well, for Creed, I lifted more weights because I had to stand next to this guy, Florian Montague, who is plays my son, and he's very big. Like, he weighs 110 kilos, big arms. So in the movie, I have to grab him a few times, and you know, and I had to look. I wanted to look strong, so I did a lot of lifting for that picture. And then when I showed up in Philadelphia, the director wanted me to look really old. I agreed, you know, like the hair and everything, gray hair, bad teeth, but he wanted the clothes to be very big on me, so to look like I lost weight. So, you know, in some scenes you see a little bit of muscles, but a lot of times I don't, you know, can't really see it. Yeah.
What made you go back into directing?
Well, what happened was when I was directing back in 2009 was the last picture. I really liked it actually, but I got caught up in the Expendables series, and that took 6 years. And then I said, you know, I don't want to really direct until I find out more about myself as an actor, and also as a person, get a little more stable. And also, if you direct, you also have to produce a little bit, because if you're starting in directing, it's your face, and you might as well be part of the decision-making process as well. So, you know, I had this little script for many years, and now I get a chance to make it when I'm doing a role. And it's just more, it's more challenging to try something different and to try to affect the audience. and with the whole film, not just in your performance.
And what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a movie that has a lot of violence in it, and has a lot of emotions, and it's well, I think I should put it like I see it as a psychological drama of somebody, you know, but you could say it has a lot of action, like because it's about life and death and revenge and faith and love, and I think, you know, like all great movies, it's about all of those human emotions, you know, that we all are faced every day in our lives. So that's kind of what the film is about. I play an aging fighter, boxer, a guy who's about to retire. So you know, there's some boxing. So that's kind of cool.
But you're not retiring.
No, not for real. Only in the movie.